Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening today on a bit of a painful finish across the board. Well, Max 7 not too bad, but other stocks a little bit so yeah, let's talk about it. I'll give you my thoughts. And if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts and charts, updates, etc. Well, I do have a YouTube membership where I'm constantly updating my members with up-to-date charts, options flow, etc. So if you're interested, that link is below. I did a little poll today, and you can see a lot of people are actually, pretty, well, I don't know if impressed is the right word, but, above expectations, or at least at expectations for the price. So people are obviously happy with the service. So if you're interested, of course, that link is down below for just $3 a month for the Tesla tier. $5 includes NVDA as well if you're interested. And then $7, which we've been having a lot of good ones actually, is non-Tesla, non-NVIDIA stocks and member chart requests over the weekend. But jumping into it, Tesla closing the day down almost 2% on the day, closing at just shy of $311 per share. Printing a bit of a, maybe a bit is not the correct word here, but a very obvious, pretty bearish candle today, with a bearish engulfing. Now, this is why, yesterday, some people made comments saying how, oh, but it broke. This guy was talking about 315 the whole time and it finally broke it and he's still not very happy. It's like, yes and no, right? Yes and no. And the reason is because it's not always as simple as, oh, it broke 315 for one candle. Congratulations, it's all over. Everything's good to go. Sometimes it's that simple, sometimes it's not. It depends on how did it break it? How convincing was the break? How does the candle look? What are key levels to watch out for? There's more to it than it's just like, oh, it broke 315 and went to 315.01. Congratulations, it's now officially 100% bullish. Like, yes and no, right? It's more complicated than that. So I mentioned yesterday how, Tesla, even though it did break this high over here, right? This was important, to me at least important. It broke this high, right? So not yes, today technically too, actually, but yesterday as well, right? Which is good. To me, that's actually good news, right? That's actually good news, right? So this pullback, which I've been talking about, as of right now, I actually am kind of bullish on it. I'll explain why. I'll explain. Anyways, so the point is we broke this high, right? I like this because we set up a fresh higher high, right? We've been setting lower lows, and this is, like, no questions about it, a higher high. It broke above it. Now, it did get rejected 2 times in a row pretty damn aggressively at around that 320 zone, but it still broke price above it, which is a good sign. So that's good. Now, moving forward, what do I see? Well, the 1 hour has definitely lost momentum, right? And I mentioned yesterday how, today, and essentially as long as Tesla holds about 313, which was this kind of level right over here, the bulls have a shot at a more bullish option, especially if they break 320 to go up to the 330s quicker, right? Quickly, maybe even this week. Unfortunately, we did end up losing in the final hour or so of the day. We lost 313, right? That's not ideal, right? We had another push up and then we just collapsed back under, kind of went sideways, printed a little mini bear flag, if you will, and then we're continuing lower. So that's not ideal, right? Because we lost 313, they do lose short-term momentum. You can see the 1 hour stochastic MACD, everything is kind of bearish here, right? Not looking amazing in terms of just strict momentum. But on the flip side, the 1 hour SMI is now approaching, bottom tier territory, which you can see almost every time it's approached anywhere around this general vicinity, it's been pretty close to a bottom. And this is where I start going into why I think this pullback has potentials of being a bullish pullback. So first and foremost, obvious points out of the way on the daily. Despite breaking above those levels, despite even trying to still kind of having this possibility of reclaiming the exponential moving averages, yesterday's candle, because it showed a very strong indecision candle, wasn't super convincing to me. Like, it was good, and especially if we can hold 313, there is very nice potential here. But losing 313 unfortunately unlocks a short-term bearish path, which overall I'd actually view as a bullish one, right? Especially with this bearish engulfing, unfortunately. Now keep in mind, bearish engulfings are only meaningful if we essentially lose the low, and especially close below today's low tomorrow, which we pretty much closed at the low of the day, then it further validates this bearish engulfing to go lower. Now the question is, well, how much lower do we go? Well, let's zoom out on the daily first and foremost. What is the bigger picture before we dive into the more smaller time frames, right? The bigger picture is, well, we have this massive rising pennant, bullish, even arguably a bullish pennant, right? You can absolutely make an argument this is a nice looking bullish pennant like this, right? Now, this obviously hinges on 2 factors. Essentially, to make it simple, as long as Tesla bulls do not lose, in the bigger picture, 290 to 300. As long as they do not lose 290 to 300, about that $10 range or so. In other words, this bottom kind of, trend line of the pennants, the bulls are not out yet. However, as long as bears do not lose this top pennant, which in this case is anywhere between 340 to 350, depending on how quick we get there, how fast it happens, whatever, but around that $10 range as well, the bears are also not out of the picture. Now, you can absolutely make an argument that the fact that the bulls arguably have a slight upper hand, mainly because this is technically a bullish pennant, but remember, especially with Tesla, just because it's a bullish pennant, it doesn't mean it has to play out in bullish fashion. For instance, as an example, back here, Tesla had a massive rally and it was kind of setting up almost like a bullish pennant as well. And then it ended up, of course, going down, back down under pretty aggressively. So it's not always perfect. Just because it's a bullish pennant, it doesn't mean it has to play out in bullish fashion. But as long as Tesla is above 310 or 300 to 290, or below 340 to 350, it's still a battleground within this area. And in my opinion, neither side, bulls or bears, can truly claim victory just yet. Now, if we lose the bottom area and we essentially lose that 290 to 300-ish zone, that to me opens up a bearish alt, where at the very least we come down to 270. But honestly, at that point, I'd be expecting closer to 240 roughly. However, if Tesla breaks above 340 to 350, eventually, well, that to me opens up closer to, at the very least, retesting this sort of, 365 high. But probably I would not be surprised if we come up into the 400s, to be completely honest with you, right? And that's the way I'll be looking at it moving forward in the bigger picture. Now, the smaller time frame, if we go back to the 1 hour, is pretty simple. I mentioned before how if we get any pullbacks from here, especially when the 1 hour SMI, remember I mentioned it was all the way up here, even the 4 hour was starting to approach the upper levels, right? Despite that nice bullish break above, the reason I wasn't super convinced is because, again, we had a doji candle, we had the 1 hour SMI pretty much near the top end of the spectrum. So despite it being a good structure, this to me now is actually better. Why is it better? Because we had this nice, beautiful impulse move up, we broke this high, and now we're setting up a potential bull flag. And this is what this potential, downside move that seems like we're getting further lower, which I'll give you the targets below very soon. But the overall structure, the way I look at it personally, is that it'll be a bit of a bull flag situation into a move higher, at the very least in the 1 hour time frame. That is my current perspective on this potential move. Now keep in mind, it'll take a few days. It's not going to just develop tomorrow and blast off on Thursday. It can take a few more days. Maybe it'll even take closer to the end of the week, maybe even the rest of the week. I don't know how long it's going to take, but that's kind of what I'm eyeballing right now on Tesla stock, kind of overall for the shorter term. Now, in terms of targets, like how low can this go, right? Like how bad can this get? Like, what's the pain potentially, right? The pain is pretty simple. The first target, which we're pretty much there, which I'd be surprised if that's all we get. I think it'll go lower, especially with that bearish engulfing, is 309.5. We're pretty much there. I think we'll go lower. My main target, at least, is the 0.5 fib around 305 down to 301. Worst case scenario is the 786 fibs, which is the green ones down here at 295. So essentially, to me, this sort of $10 range right here, 305 to 295, which is pretty close to that level I mentioned, 300 to 290. I like to give it a bit more wiggle room. I don't want to, I'd rather get out early just in case, right? But this sort of $10 range, this 305 to 295, is the level that I wouldn't be surprised this potential bull flag that seems to be starting to form ends up retracing down to anywhere in that general vicinity, 305 down to 295. And if it develops properly and it starts showing proper structure, which will take time, that's where I'll start eyeballing some potential nice, plays or, moves back up, if you will, etc. Which, if it plays out the way I expect it to, you have the pole, it's got that looks something along the lines of this, then you have this bull flag, and let's say it does go down to 305 roughly, and then it breaks out from there. This can take Tesla easily back to 340s even, 330s at least, in my opinion, if this plays out, the way it should, textbook style, if you will. Potentially even into earnings. That is a possibility, actually, which let's see, right? Let's see. But that's kind of the way I'll be looking at Tesla moving forward, right? That's more or less my kind of perspective right now on the daily and on the 1 hour. Again, pretty not looking good candle today. It's a very ugly candle just by itself, but taking into the fact that it is a bearish engulfing, it's a bit of a concerning candle. I'm not gonna lie. It's not the best, not the sexiest looking candle by any means whatsoever. But based on the structure and based on what this seems to be forming, in my opinion, this seems to be a bull flag forming. And as long as Tesla doesn't lose the bottom end of this pennant and this trend line, pretty much right around this general vicinity, like I mentioned, anywhere, about 300 to 290, give or take, I wouldn't fully count the bulls yet either, right? They're not fully counted out just yet, but I do prefer that this happens quickly and then gets back up quickly before we get that full emo crossover to the downside, ideally, right? That'll be my ideal scenario. Quick move, maybe tomorrow, maybe even into Thursday, and then it snaps back up pretty aggressively, let's say Thursday or Friday, or at the very least Monday next week. I think that's pretty much it. That's kind of what I'm expecting right now. That's more or less what I believe was going to happen. That's kind of my current analysis, and that's kind of my current perspective. So let's see if this plays out. Let's see how it goes. We have PPI tomorrow, jobless on Thursday. So let's see what that ends up forming for the stock and really just the market in general. In terms of options flow, Tesla, a lot of mixed flow, but definitely some bearishness towards the end of the day. You can see here some bearish flow came in here at 1 million put for this week. Actually at 310 came in when Tesla was at 311. So kind of where it is right now, honestly. you know, a little bit of bullish flow at the very stretch of the day, like the very end of the day. But for the most part, definitely, you know, definitely leaning a little bit bearish here, in my opinion, from what I can tell. But yeah, so I think short-term pain into a potential bull flag, into a potential move higher that'll look along the lines of this. That's my current expectations. Let's see if that plays out. But that's what I believe right here, right now. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think down below. And as usual, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.